Hello and welcome to the Eurogamer show. It's just Ian and myself this week, I'm afraid, but it's been a pretty busy one. I think we're going to have some stuff to talk about. It'll be alright. Anyway, as I'm hosting on my own, I thought I'd bring you into the Eurogamer office. This is where we all work. There are usually other people here, I promise. Bertie works right here. You can see a dragon statue probably on his desk. He's really quite into dragons, is Bertie, and that's fine, that's cool. Yeah, it's been a pretty strong week on the site for reviews. A bunch of good games have been released that we've been talking about. You look at things like the new Kirby, which is unsurprisingly adorable, that was recommended. Project Cars, the same. And Codename Steam, actually, a later review from Christian Donlan, but I found it interesting that his review didn't quite match what some of the other sites are saying, and I tend to trust that guy when it comes to turn-based strategy. He thinks it's alright, might be worth a look if you're undecided about that game. But the real big one for reviews was Kerbal Space Program. That game has just left early access on Steam, is now a proper full release, and it's got an essential. And I think I need to read you a small paragraph from that review by Richard Cobbett, and you'll know why once I've finished. You know what? I'm going to need some decent music underneath this as well. Okay, here we go. It takes many such failures before you finally get to see the world dropping away to be replaced by infinite space in a moment as satisfying as any achievement in gaming right now. And even then it comes with a reminder that you've no more mastered the stars than a kid with a dinghy can hope to conquer the sea. It's rare for a game to truly convey that sense of wonder or the promise of something new, but this one delivers. A feeling that only happens because it made you work your bottom off for every last little scrap of your success. Now I wanted to read that because it had the word bottom in it, but also, that sounds amazing. I need to go and play Kerbal Space Program. So yeah, it's not a bad week on the review front really. On the news side of things, it was maybe more of a mixed bag. So on the good side of the bag, you've got Nintendo coming out and talking about getting in some kind of deal with Universal Studios and getting involved in theme parks. And does that mean, I think that might mean real life Mario Kart. That sounds wonderful, great. Less so was the whole PT situation that's kind of come about as a result of whatever the hell's going on at Konami. Unfortunately, even if you own PT now, you've downloaded it before, if you need to re-download it, if you've deleted the game or you get a new console, you can't. That game is no longer available. And that sucks. It's a really cool game as well.
Interact with any of this? Oh, 204. Oh! Jesus Christ!
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was revealed on Tuesday. Okay, Ian's got something to say about that at the end of this week's show, so stick around for that. Rockstar have addressed some issues that people have been having with mods on the PC version. There was a concern that some people were being banned for using single-player mods because the game thought they were cheating. And yeah, Rockstar have come out and talked about that directly. And as a nice little bonus, the Rockstar Editor, the video editing tool on the PC version, is coming to the PS4 and Xbox One at some point, which is very welcome indeed. And finally, we had another upsetting example of why Steam and its lack of curation isn't always a good thing. This was just another completely worthless, needlessly offensive game or trailer for a game that wormed its way onto Steam greenlights. Jim Sterling picked this one up, did his thing, brought enough attention to it that it was eventually pulled, but should it be getting that far in the first place is probably the bigger question, isn't it? And yeah, that was This Week in Games. However, this week hasn't just been about games. If you live in the United Kingdom, you'll know that yesterday was the results of the general election, which is pretty massive. And yeah, we're looking at a Conservative government for the next 5 years, and that's, well, I don't want to get personal about this, it's not who I voted for, and that's rubbish. So I've been playing Democracy Free to, this is a bit of a tenuous link, isn't it? We're going to be playing as the United Kingdom, of course. Some interesting facts here we may want to take note of, like population size, GDP, and tea consumption. I mean, come on. I can't... That's one of those things that just really aggravates me. You know, that stereotype that all British people are just obsessed with tea. It's just outrageous, is what it is. Anyway, let's begin. Right, so we need to choose our party name. I'm going to call our Party, the very lovely Party. And yes, the thing I need to tell you about this game, it's quite overwhelming. Oh, that's a lot of stuff, isn't it? That's so many things. Each one of these little circles represents an issue or a policy that you can change. And so let's look at some of them. The red ones are bad things. So for example, right up here in the top right, if we hover over that, it shows that we have an issue with homelessness, and it shows all the other issues or policies that impact homelessness, which I think is a really lovely way of demonstrating that. Every decision you make changes a bunch of other things. Some of them you may not be expecting, but all that information is available here. It's just very overwhelming. I imagine running a country is quite overwhelming, to be honest, so that's probably fair. How much is that going to cost me, please? So at the moment I'm paying 46.82 billion per quarter. Every turn is a quarter in this game. It would go up to 61.7 billion. That sounds like quite a lot. That will have added, how much, about 20 billion or something to the expenditure over here, which is already more than our income. Okay, I've still got 25 political capital which I can spend this turn. Is there anywhere else that I can start bringing in some extra money? The military. Is this a really bad thing to do? Oh, that doesn't sound good. People are starting to not like me as much. We need to reduce unemployment, and we need to stop crime. Let's hire loads more police officers. Boom, maximum. What does that do? We still need something that doesn't cost us anything, really, but makes us money and makes everyone happier. Everyone. Right, I've decided to legalise cannabis. Like nowhere else, the citizens of this country can now walk the streets safely and sleep sound in their beds knowing that crime is practically consigned to the history books. Excellent. That's great. It only took a hugely increased police force, CCTV cameras with facial recognition, a spy satellite program, and yeah, no, just those three, I think. I think it's the election. Well, I hope that tax credit thing helped. And the drugs, you can do drugs now. I think I'm winning. People did not turn up for this election, did they? Hooray! And there we are. I won an election and it only came at the cost of a few civil liberties here and there. Cool. That was revealing. Maybe politics shouldn't be in video games. Ian, talk to me about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
So, it turns out the cool thing to do this year is resurrect long-dead video game franchises. Earlier this year, the corpses of Rock Band and Guitar Hero clawed their way out of the dirt, and this week we finally received confirmation that a new Tony Hawk's game is in the works, thanks to an exclusive reveal in the latest issue of Game Informer. Don't be fooled by the 5 in the title though. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is far from being the 5th game in the series. In fact, if you count all the spin-offs and ports, there's actually been about 18 Tony Hawk's games, and just like a real-life skateboarder, they've had their fair share of exhilarating highs and bone-shattering lows. The core series spans from 1999's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater to 2007's Proving Ground, with, in my opinion, the highlight coming from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. The original was a phenomenon that Pro Skater 2 made slight improvements upon, but it wasn't until Pro Skater 3 and the introduction of combo extending reverts that the gameplay truly reached perfection. Subsequent titles were still strong, but the addition of story modes, level editors and open worlds felt more like unnecessary padding than true gameplay innovations. Where the series fell down and couldn't get up though was its fateful move into motion control territory. It might have been all the rage back in the day, but Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam on the Wii and Tony Hawk's Motion for the Nintendo DS both suffered from unresponsive controls, and changing up the gameplay to accommodate for the controller waggling was a big mistake that alienated the series' fans. Tony Hawk's Ride and Tony Hawk's Shred will forever be remembered as the worst of the bunch though, basically because together they killed off the franchise. The much hyped skateboarding peripheral they shipped with was supposed to bring a new level of immersion to the genre, but clumsy controls only brought skatred from fans and reviewers alike. In its first week on sale in the US, Shred only managed to shift a paltry 3,000 copies, which must have made Activision feel a little bit like this. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 promises to return to the series' roots, ditching the gimmicks for more precision-based gameplay. But can we be certain it will be any good? Returning to the original Neversoft Pro Skater formula is definitely a kickflip in the right direction, but when it's being developed by Robo Modo, the same studio that put the nails in Tony's coffin 5 years ago with Ride and Shred, it's probably a good idea to err on the side of caution and put some elbow pads on your hopes and dreams. Oh, damn, that looked painful.
And that wraps up this week's show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and you may have also noticed that it went live on the Saturday morning of this week rather than Friday afternoon/evening, and that's going to be the norm from this point onwards, so yeah, unless we change our minds again, which I'm sure we won't do. You can watch some of the other stuff we've done this week, that we did some things, like this one here is a look at Black Mesa, the impressive standalone remake of Half-Life, the original Half-Life. You can look at something that Ian did over here about Wolfenstein: The Old Blood and some of its Easter eggs, or Johnny did a video about horses. He was mean to the horses. Don't watch that one. Okay, bye.